In this tutorial, I'm going to share a few little tips and tricks that will help you improve your writing and give it a bit of calligraphic flair. Now, I want to say at the outset, I'm not a calligrapher and I haven't spent many years training to be. But my mother and father are calligraphers and they have spent 50 odd years practicing their art. So being the child of calligraphers has helped me to learn a few little tips and tricks that I can share with you. So let's get straight to it and I hope you enjoy it. The first tip I would suggest is that if you were writing something, don't be afraid to go in first and use a ruler as a guideline. Unless you're a master calligrapher who's practiced for many years, to be honest, guidelines are the way to go to make sure that your writing is the size you want and it's placed on the page where you want it. My dad got to the point where he was so well versed in calligraphy that he used to challenge himself to work without guidelines, but I would recommend that definitely you use guidelines. So for example, here I'm using 2 centimeters as my guideline and I'm marking those down here. Let's say you were writing a card to somebody or decorating, a piece of, a picture, and you wanted a bit of writing like a dedication to somebody that you love or something like that. You want to mark out very lightly with guidelines where you want to write. And you can also think about the size of your small letters and the size of your big letters. So I might fill this space with a large letter here, but what size do I want my small letters? This is where you can measure it or just use your eye if you're feeling a little bit lazy, and you can just mark the size of your small letters so you have a guideline. Now I have a pen. It's a very simple fountain pen with a cartridge inside, but I guess you can use anything really, because it's more about the style of your writing and the beauty of it than the pen you use. At least that's how I see it. I'm sure other calligraphers will disagree. So, the next thing, let's say something I always have to write, even in my adult life, is happy birthday. How many times have I signed a card and had to say happy birthday? So let's try those. When I write the H, I write it large, and I tend to like using a fancier hand. For the smaller letters, I've got my guideline here, and so I can do a little ascender, curl round, up and down. And you notice my letters have a slight slant, so I want to keep that same kind of slant as I go through. Another ascender, come right down, and you can give it a little hook. Curl round, and again you want to come up, down. Try and keep this parallel. Give it a hook, and then the Y. Come up, keep that gentle slant, and you want to curve up. That's how I would write happy. Birthday, I might like giving it a capital letter again. That's quite fun doing the large letters. So we want to start similar height, curve round and down, and then we're going to do our fancy B. Curve it and then do the base. Again, we've got our guiding line here, so we can have a go at the rest. I'm going to do a little serif. R. Let's get that hook like these. And then, personally, I don't join my R's. So I'm going to do a serif and make the T taller. Notice everything still has a little slant. And I'm going to come up tall for my H, a tall ascender. Hook. D, a bit like the A, but then we're going to go up. A, and again the Y, and we'll do it similar to this Y. Keep them steady and come down and up. Another trick to making your writing look fancy is to focus on one larger letter that looks especially beautiful, and then carry on writing the rest as normal. So let's say, for example, I want to write the here. I might do a large T that fills up this double space, and then I'll continue my writing as normal. And a good piece of advice is to use something to help you guide your lines, because no matter how steady your hand is, unless you've practiced for many years, it can be quite tricky to get it really beautiful. So I'm doing the trunk of the T, and I'm using this little measuring tool to help me. I've done the trunk, and now I want to curve either side to give it a stand. And then I'm going to do a similar thing, but longer at the top. So you can see I'm making sure this is parallel with that guiding line I've got above, and I'm coming out. And then at the very end there's different options, so you could curve up like this, which looks quite royal. And if you want something a bit fancier, you can go ahead and then decorate inside that T with some lovely decorations. You might, for example, in the middle of it, decide actually you're going to do a diamond shape. And within that, perhaps you're going to fill it with some patterns. You can hand draw the patterns, just using a bit of imagination and creativity. So my fancy T is created. I've drawn a guiding line for my smaller letters, and you could go straight in with pen, but if it's something that you really want to take care of, you can go in with pencil and draw those letters on before you actually do them with pen. And again, it can be quite nice to use a ruler to draw those letters. And what you want to make sure is that your straight lines are straight and your curved lines are really curvy. So I've made sure that the straight bits of the H are straight and they're really curvy on the curvy bits. This is a slightly different style to the style we did before. And you also need to try and make sure that your letters are correctly spaced, which isn't always easy and does take practice, but a good eye helps with that. So there's our word the, and it gives you an example of a few different letters to what we did before. To continue the theme of just random letters in this more straightforward style, the idea is that you keep your straight lines straight and your curvy letters really round. So let's say I'm writing the word love. I'd give it a little serif. I come down straight. Use of the ruler might help. especially if you're a novice like me. Really round for our round letters, and it does take practice. You can curve the V, and the E you want to start further away so that by the time you get back it fits and the gap isn't too thin. And you can see, again, it takes a lot of practice to actually get your eye and your hands coordinated so well that each time you do it perfectly and the gaps are the right amount. But if you're writing a card, I'm sure someone would be more than happy to receive a card with writing that looks like you've made a lot of effort. And it is a lot of fun. Let's try another word. Let's try truth. So the T goes above the line, and then it comes down as straight, and we cross it there. The R, we give a little serif down and a serif at the bottom. R, serif, curve that U, and another serif and another curve. T, remember, is taller, nice and straight, and then the H is very tall, and I use the help of this tool to get that straight line, because my hand isn't steady enough. It does help when it's actually straight, of course. And we give it a flick, and then curve over and up. So there are two letters that are particularly tricky to do using this style. So I'm going to show you these letters now. One of them is the G, the letter G. So you begin with a really round circle, as round as you can get it. Then you do a little hook, and below that you do a slightly larger circle. And then you end it with a little hook or serif. So if we wrote the word great, the A in this style is different as well, so I'll show you that. You do a smaller circle, and then you do a little cap like a hood. And finally the T, like we did up here, is a bit taller, and then you cross it. The other tricky letter is the F. In this style, the F is taller like the T, it's taller than the other letters. So it starts with a little serif, comes down with a flick, and crosses like the T. And you can always do the cross a bit fancy. Let's write the word free. Flick at the bottom, and then the E, so there you have the F and the G, both tricky letters that look slightly different to normal. I thought I'd end my video with a couple more useful celebratory kind of good wishes from different religions. So firstly, Ramadan Kareem, something I've written occasionally in cards, how to write it in a cursive font. We're going to start with a fancy R, curving down, then from over at the top on the left, we're going to come up round, a little curl, and then the tail. The next bit we will join. So a slight tilt to my letters, come down with a flick, try and keep it smooth. Remember, A's and D's are quite similar, but D's come up tall. Lots of A's in this word, so it's a great one to practice. And then Kareem. For the K, we want to start up here, curve at the line, and then again an ascender, descender, flick, and flick for the M, curve over and over with a flick at the end. And now for Merry Christmas in the same cursive style. We start in the middle of the two lines for the small letters. We curve round, up, down a bit, up, and give it a little foot. Then ascender for the E, little hook, then the R with a flick, flick, and Y. There's your Merry. Now Christmas. Start your Christmas a little further up from the small letter line. So about here, do a dot and gently curve. You don't want a large curve here. Your H is taller with a flick, a little hook, then R, S, curve round, make it a bit taller for the T, hook, then M, flick, A, and S. Then cross your T, give it a serif, and dot your I. Let's try Happy Hanukkah here. So again, that fancy H we did at the very beginning. Lots of twists and turns. Happy. We wrote happy before, so it's keeping that gentle curve as you go and making sure things are parallel. Let's give it a nice tail, and then we need to fit Hanukkah in, or Hanukkah. Please excuse my bad pronunciation. So let's get that fancy H, curling round, back up, curling round with a little flick. Start from the bottom to get the A, N, flick, over, U, then we have a double K, So K's are taller. And another K. Curl round and give it a little tail. And we've got another A here. And then a tall H. For the final celebratory greeting, we're going to write Happy Diwali, but the H for this is going to be super fancy. So you're going to start a little bit up from the small letter lines, and you're going to curve your way up, back down, and spiral up to cross over. Then make your way to the left and twirl your way up, confidently up and down with a twiddle in the middle. The rest of it is similar to before. A, P, P, and then let's try doing a really fancy Y. Come down and spiral round. Now for the Diwali. We're doing fancy letters. Let's continue that theme. So spiraling down for your D. Bring yourself across with a nice generous D. Then the rest of the word is pretty similar. Keeping that nice curve to the letters. And just taking your time, making your L nice and tall, coming back down, and then you dot your I's. There we are. I hope you've loved this tutorial and found something useful or informative in it. If you've enjoyed it, I would be so grateful if you liked and subscribed. You can also check out my other artwork on Instagram and Facebook at Nash Henkel Art. Thanks so much for watching.